So, hello everybody. I know it's probably decoded at night by this time, but thank you for sticking around. And welcome to our talk about how you can kickstart your Web3 community, just like we did, not only on Ajuna, but in Polkadot as a whole. So, just a brief introduction about myself. I would say I was classically trained in economics and econometrics. Then I went on and did some studies in health management, and I was actually one of the lucky ones to be able to take my studies in the real corporate world. And after having a stint at Deutsche Bank, which was lovely, and GlaxoSmithKline, which was even worse, I decided about, I think a decade later, to take sort of my fate in my own hands and my entrepreneurial journey started. My first startup was something like let's say a Netflix for fitness, but it was about six and a half years ago that I entered the blockchain and gaming space. Back then, I was trying to create with a team a solo chain, which was an awesome experience, but sort of the difficulty of trying to operate your own sovereign blockchain was too big to overcome. And just a few years later, I managed to hook up with Cedric and Andre, and our Ajuna network journey was on the way. In parallel, as I was going on my journey, Cedric and Andre were setting out to tinker with anything that they could find in front of them. So Cedric started playing around with things, I would say, probably around 2014, 2015, when he took the Bitcoin protocol, took the Satoshi part of the transaction, and decided to encode logic on it. So what was the idea really at that point? How he could take or use sort of blockchain as an infrastructure for game engines. That's sort of what triggered him at that point. Now, the whole goal for our Ajuna network, what we try to create, is essentially a decentralized infrastructure, which is going to be fully governed by players and where we can reside game engine on it. Now, do we think that the future of gaming is fully on chain? We don't know. That's up to the developers. All we are focused on is to make sure that we can put all of these things in front of them and they get to decide what it is that they want to build. So, welcome to Decoded, right? Big difference from last year. We have guests over, we have big companies joining us, and we're starting to see sort of the reason why this is happening, right? Because all of this developer activity that has been happening over the past couple of years here, you're seeing that it's sort of transitioning from the infrastructure to the application layer. And that's a very exciting time to be here. So in our talk today, we want to show how we are contributing to this transition from the infrastructure onto the application and the product layer. And in that time, we'll be able to show you how we managed to onboard our first gaming community, how we will continue to do it, and how probably we can inspire you to do the same thing. So let's rewind and see sort of what Ajuna did previously on Decoded. So last year, all of our focus was on mainly being able to set up our infrastructure, so getting our parachain on Kusama and later on getting our parachain also on Polkadot. And one of the first things that we sort of wanted to solve was the Unity integration, right? Unity is I would say, the premier game engine used by over 60% of game developers. But what we were seeing in our ecosystem is that every parachain was going about it in its own way. So I'm happy to share with you today that we are partnering with all of the other parachains and with Parity in order to be able to make sure that we create a single point of entry for Unity developers, which will be a Polkadot SDK. So this is an ecosystem initiative which we're very happy to support. Another thing that we put a lot of focus on last year was making sure that when we launch on Kusama, we use Kusama. So we intend to do that. Our first season of the Awesome Ajuna Avatars was launched on it, and we intend to continue building it until they kick us out. So after all of this focus on the infrastructure today, along with the rest of the ecosystem, we're transitioning ourselves from a team which has been focused on a journey of building our infrastructure. Now we're moving to a journey that we're going to build out with our community, putting in focus from changing from infrastructure to starting to make products which we can put in users' hands. And our single drive is how can we create engagement? Because at the end of the day, especially when it has to do with games, engagement is the only metric that we really care for. So really, there's not a better time, I think, to build in this ecosystem, right? A whole ecosystem transitioning to the application layer with a shared security backed up by Polkadot, with the power of pallets and a scaling solution which can take us into the future. So what are our goals, with these experiences that we are creating? So we want to create simple Web3 experiences which we work and play with our community, and then see if we can create those, sort of convert those into products. And we started with the Awesome Ajuna Avatars, right? By creating a small addictive game loop where we allow users, instead of buying, let's say, their game asset or NFT, to actually create it and craft it on their own. The questions that we tried to answer when we were going about creating this product is how can we make a product which will allow for teams and projects who are launching on Ajuna network to build that first community to support their game. We wanted to make sure that we create value not through pricing, but through engagement, because that's the way I think that as gamers we feel. An item has value not because of the price, a game item has a value not because of its price, but because of the time and effort and passion I have for that game and the value that it means to me. In terms of inspiration for season one, we went back into our sort of memory and our childhood of simple crafting games, our passion for Panini stickers, right? There's the World Cup, we go to the kiosk, we get our Panini stickers, open them up, create our album, and that joy that comes with it. And also, another inspiration for us was the probably unhealthy amount of time that we spent in a game creating our character, right? Sort of that first entry when you start a point where they tell you, hey, create your character. Well, we spend a lot of time because we're going to be with that character on a journey for some time. Now, a big decision that we made is that we were going to focus on chain journeys. So what that means is that on-chain means Web3 onboarding. But here's where the beauty of our ecosystem lies. We don't have to build our own wallet. All we had to do at that point is reach out to the other teams within the ecosystem, whether that was Sub-Wallet, Talisman, and more to come like Nova, and simply integrate their wallet into our application. And that's sort of one of the wonderful things of our ecosystem. We get to work together to build stuff. Now, obviously, on-chain has limitations, but they're not that big. At the end of the day, all we try to do is use the token in a way that we would sort of enjoy it in gaming. So we have tokens, we would we would onboard users in a very simple way. Everything happened through Discord. And the way that we would onboard users would invite them over onto our Discord channel and onboard them personally as the team, one-on-one over 1,000 players. And onboarding for us meant I'm going to make sure that you have a Bayou wallet, and I make sure that I'm going to give you a token balance so when the game launches, you're ready to go. So by the time the game was ready, we had close to 1,000 players ready to go and join and play the game. Now, also on-chain means pretty much going up to dial-up speed. I mean, Gavin, I think, mentioned before 6 seconds. It's still close to 12. But the truth is, we didn't care, because all we did is what sort of gamers or game developers have done in the past. Technology has never limited creativity. So what you see here on screen, that little avatar, is our, let's say, representation of the Kusama network. So we let's say, personified the Kusama network, put an element of intrigue, added a star map, which meant that those 12 seconds were represented by 12 different constellations, and you created a game loop, which was quite simple and fun. So for the Awesome Ajuna avatars to be able to mint them and forge them in an accurate way, you had to pay attention to what was going on between the Kusama, let's say, clock, and also the different attributes of your own Awesome Ajuna avatars. So taking limitations of the technology in a creative way to make a simple, engaging experience. So what was the result of season one? As was mentioned earlier, in less than 7 days, actually close to 5, we got over 1,000 players, minting over 300,000 Awesome Ajuna avatars, going through over 80,000 forges to essentially forge over or close to 900 legendary Awesome Ajuna avatars. And most importantly, over 20% of those players completed fully the game. So in terms of engagement, we were really happy with the numbers that we got. Now, okay, I finished my game, I have my Awesome Ajuna avatar, what can I do with it? That's sort of the big question that we all have when we're talking about game assets or NFTs. So first of all, Awesome Ajuna Avatar, when you finish the game, is not an NFT. It's still an in-game item. It's on-chain. You own it. It's just not an NFT. So the dual path that we have designed for each season is that there's always going to be a path that goes with the product. So season 1 was themed around our own game, which is Battle Mogs. And each season will have its own theme and its own product, which you will get access to through your Awesome Ajuna Avatar. The second path is what we call our on-chain missions, which essentially is, I would say, our second product, or I said Web3 experiment that we're doing. So imagine that you can take your Awesome Ajuna Avatar, let's say go get a pilot license, get your spaceship, go on another planet, stay there for 20 days, and let's say mine a special ore. Essentially what we're trying to do here is introduce sort of these gamers or our community to these concepts around Web3, whether that's called governance, voting, staking. But we're doing it in a way that is sort of quite familiar and gamified. And even more interesting, we will be able to partner up with other partners in order to be able, and other parachains in order to be able to create missions where you can travel from Ajuna, let's say to Interlay, to Astar, and come back. So after we're done with the missions, at that point, as we said, we have the Awesome Ajuna Avatars, which have their path with the product. In season 1, it was Battle Pogs, and then we go on to our missions. Now, all of this is happening within our ecosystem, but we know that gaming and generally digital assets should be able to travel anywhere at any point. So we're very happy to introduce Wildcard, which is a new product that we're working on with a team from Polycrypt, which essentially is a gasless, real-time marketplace where you will be able to create it. It has an on-chain worker, an off-chain worker, which you will be able to take your Awesome Ajuna Avatar and move it from within our ecosystem, whether that's Ajuna or Polkadot, all the way to Ethereum, Polygon, and anywhere else we want. I would like to invite Sasha from Polygon on stage to give us a few words about Wildcard and Polycrypt.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm Sasan from Polycrypt, and I would like to give you a 2-minute deep dive about Polycrypt and also about Wildcard. So what is Wildcard? Wildcard is a T-based multi-chain second layer solution. So basically what we are doing, we are facilitating the trusted execution environment. In this case, it's Intel SGX to execute new protocols, new apps, and in the end, hopefully, new products for the blockchain space. Wildcard, functional-wise, is actually a marketplace with all the functions you would expect from a marketplace, but it is blockchain agnostic, so you can also then hence use it as a bridge, which will probably be the case, and yeah, opens up the way for the spaceship journeys, basically, and yeah, and we call also this feature blockchain agnostic and functional flexible. We call it arbitrary programmability and high compatibility. Basically means it's future safe. And to be a little bit more specific here again, what it basically should allow is that you can easily on and offboard from Ajuna to Polkadot to Ethereum or Polygon, for example. And yes, it has several, technical-wise, there's several advantages to already existing solutions like Plasma or like CK rollups. So it's trustless, for example, so code verification can be done via remote attestation. It's more efficient because you, for example, need no CK compute cluster, less fees because you need no on-chain checkpoints, and for sure, it's more secure because it's based on a paper which was developed and published at the TU Darmstadt, so-called committee. It's online available, and you can check it, which brings me a little bit to Polycrypt, and then I'm trying to cool down again in this heat. Polycrypt is a spin-off of the TU Darmstadt. Our mission is bringing modern cryptography to the market. We see ourselves as technology partner, and basically we were the last 2 years we were focusing mostly on off-chain technology and interoperability challenges. And yes, we are always very delighted to see our product come into the community and create some impact, which will be here the case. We have also another product line which is called Perun. Some of you might be familiar with that. We also developed it partly with Ajuna together in a cooperation, and it was also funded by the Web3 Foundation. So thank you for that, and also thank you for having me here. And for sure, if you have questions regarding Wildcard or other technical challenges, let us know. That's it.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Session. So we've created our Awesome Ajuna Avatar. We now can take them on adventures. We can sort of explore different aspects of Web3, and soon we'll be able to take them also outside of the ecosystem. So what's coming next for Ajuna Network? Season 2, which we're introducing the pets of Ajuna Network. Now, what we tried to do in this Season 2, we tried to add a bit different game loops, increase a bit the complexity, but our goal is to make sure that we can keep the engagement and maybe try to extend the game from 7 days, hopefully to a couple of months. So that was sort of a big goal that we have for our Season 2. And as you can see, there's going to be different elements, right? It's not going to be just your characters. You're going to be able to craft and take different sort of blueprints and materials. So it's quite an exciting adventure that we hope you're going to join us on. Season 2 is going to be launching in just a couple of weeks, and you'll be able to learn more tomorrow when you join us in our booth. But at the end of the day, everything that we do has an end goal, right? And the end goal for us is games. Awesome Ajuna Avatars is simply an entry point into experience that we hope to build later on. Whether these are things that are being built by us, like BattleMogs, or what we're hoping to accomplish furthermore into the future of inviting other builders and other game studios to build on Ajuna Network. Imagine being able to use essentially the Awesome Ajuna Avatars as an entry point to introduce your community to your game that you're building and onboard them into the adventure that you want to take them on. So what I would like to do now is invite somebody on stage which can tell you a bit more about the future of building games on Ajuna Network. So if I can invite Decoded from Evolut.
Thank you very much. I'm going to steal you another 3.5 minutes of your time, but this is really about adoption. Like, this is about the view from what you heard, or now from infrastructure layer really to like adoption and how it looks like from a game studio perspective. My name's Decoded. I'm a game developer, and I come from developing or making a game studio based on Polkadot, actually. So our core product is Evolut. Closer? Okay. Sorry. We are a team of 9 builders that have assembled around the idea of Evolut. And Evolut is a dark fantasy RPG running on Moonbeam. And Evolut stands for like 3 major things. So our community would say 3 major things. It's a really immersive experience, like lore-wise, it catches you. It's a long-term journey that you're taking with us. It is proven gameplay loops. We heard before, we don't need to reinvent the wheel sometimes. The proven gameplay loops is something that will really create addiction for that. And it's about really a meaningful integration of NFTs into the game. We have seen some cool examples today. I invite you to check out Evolut as well tomorrow. But this is actually not about Evolut today, but this is about the company and the game studio behind Evolut today. And we had, like in Berlin, we had talks last year already with Ajuna. And these talks, we shared the same values with Ajuna. It immediately clicked for us, and we were in conversations with Ajuna across the year, and we finally chose to create our own team, basically, for something that we want to do together with the Ajuna team. And that's why, I forgot to click my slides, it's also good. That's why we chose today to give you a small, very slight sneak peek of a game that we're developing, which will be the first third-party game, actually, on Ajuna Network. And it's built by us, and it's sharing basically the same values that we've done with building the Evolut game. Introducing to you today is we're building a game that's called Stardust Colonies. Stardust Colonies is a game taking place in deep space where you're fleeing from your oppressive past on Earth. You're trying to take your family to a safer and more prospering future, but you still have that stinging sense that it might not be, that something is lurking out there as well. And what I can tease already from the game is that it evolves, it is a strategy game that evolves around exploration, around navigating a vast open space system. It revolves around building your planet, colonizing it, trading your resources, upgrading your buildings, and then conquering and basically crafting allies and building your trade empire. And the thing is, with the tools that we just heard and the build your own season, for us it's really something very interesting to bootstrap the community, as is the talk of the game today, and to have that joint experience together with the Ajuna guys, and that's why we invested in a full development team that is exclusively focusing on this new game coming to Ajuna, and this will be the season 3 coming already in this year to Ajuna in the preseason as season 3. So I'm really happy to announce that this will be kind of the first third-party season coming up, and visit us tomorrow at the booth to know more about it and to get some glimpse and feedback and some talks about the game already. Thank you.
Thank you, Deckard. I know we're over time, and I don't think there's a better way to close than introducing a game. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us tonight, pretty much, and have a great afternoon.